If you're hard on yourself, if you judge and criticize yourself, please watch this till the end, because I'm going to take you through a process that reveals how to work with yourself and with your subconscious mind. Because just saying affirmations without uncovering the subconscious beliefs won't get you there. It will shift some things, but it's not changing at a foundational level. And if we want our lives to open up and create exactly what we want, we've got to change those foundational beliefs. Welcome back to Raw. I'm SJR, and I am devoted to women empowering themselves through self-awareness, a level of mastery, and financial freedom, because empowerment has to include financial freedom. So I have been working with a particular client who generously gave me the go-ahead to share some of what's transpired over the past week. She left me a message saying that a good friend of hers was talking to her about this subject, that she was struggling to support the conversation. So her message was, how do I, can you tell me how to deal with this? Because, there's this fact, and then I start feeling this way and that way, and etc., right? And in the message, somewhere, she popped out her truth, her answer. So I left her a message back and I said, re-listen to your message and hear where you tell yourself. This went on for days. She kept leaving messages, listening to it, leaving messages saying, I see where I do this, or I hear where I say this, but really I can feel the energy of that, and some brilliant insights. But they were all learned ideas. They were all things that she's learned in the course of our work, take us closer to what we want, help us manifest what we're wanting, help us get really clear on what we want, help us to be honest with ourselves. So I kept going back and saying, listen, I couldn't tell her, because if somebody tells you without you uncovering the morass of how it's disguised, you don't have that aha, you don't have that transformation, that shift in perspective. So it wasn't that much fun, to be totally honest, because I know that to the client it feels like I'm being withholding. Really what I'm doing is completely supporting their empowerment. So I don't become the resource for their answers, but rather, there was a poem, and I don't remember who it was. I'll put a note because I like to give credit where credit's due. But that said something about, you look so long at my finger pointing at the moon that you don't see the moon. See, my job is for you to get to see you. Why does this matter? We are so acclimated to judging and criticizing ourselves, to finding what we did wrong or said wrong or what was wrong, which is where she focused. She kept identifying those things or explaining them or seeing them differently. That's not the point, though. Because if we learn to identify where we trip up, then next time we're about to trip up, we have a choice. And that choice is our empowerment. We have a choice of how we relate to it. This went back and forth, and then we were actually in session. And, she got to see how her mind makes up all these stories and distractions and, oh, I did this, but I thought I meant that, but by the end I sounded like I meant this. All of which is interpretation. It's none of it substantial. It's not solid. For us to have a toolkit, we need to have solid tools. In the call, we went back and forth. She kept hearing through the same filter. And then I said to her, what if it was your daughter and you were listening for the answer she was giving? Suddenly she heard herself say, in the midst of this long message with all these details and explanations and, somewhere in there she just said, I don't want to hear it. And in the session, when I asked her that question, she said, I don't want to hear it. And I said, yes, that's your answer. You came to me for the answer, but you had it all along. We always have the answers. We don't know how to listen to them. We don't know how to listen to ourselves. We don't know how to not get distracted by all the stories and all the meanings we give it, just to get to the simple truth. I don't want to hear it. So I said, once you know that, you have the information to be conscious about how you relate to it. What do I mean? When she first got that, she said, yeah, but so what do I do? I said, what you do is easy. When you really let it in, I don't want to hear that. My simple truth. Doesn't matter why, doesn't matter if it triggers me, doesn't matter if it kicks up something in me, or I just don't feel good, or I feel inadequate, or I don't know how to help. Whatever that is, doesn't really matter. What matters is, if I really hear that, then I can sit down and say, okay, do I want to say, would it be okay for us to revisit this conversation in a week? Or, I love you so much and I trust that you'll get to the solution. Or, we're not there to we're not going to be mean and rejecting, but we're also not going to abandon ourselves to try and take care of somebody else. This is big. It's win-win. It's not win-lose. We're looking for win-win in relationships. So there were two super important takeaways. One was, the truth was quiet. I often say, insecurity is loud, confidence is quiet. The truth, everything else was sparky and except that little thing was quiet. I don't want to hear that. And then she went right back on. So the truth is quiet, it's simple, it's clear. It doesn't need interpretation, explanation, excusing, justification, none of that. It simply is. I don't want to hear it. That's number one. Number two, I said, can you take a look at all the things that you did to not hear it? She said, well, I focused on her and that she needed my support. I ignored myself. I kind of shut myself up. I was, all these ways, which is pure gold. If you know how you abandon yourself, if you know how you exclude yourself from knowing what you know, you can recognize it when you start to do it and stop doing it, right? That's number one. And number two, as she was reading this list, she said, then I start to think maybe that, I should look at what she's looking at. She sat and wrote them and then she shared them with me and I made a list. And in the telling of it, she said, because I don't trust myself, I don't trust my decisions, I think other people know what's best for me. Boom, Boom. So she often struggles with, when we first started working together, she said, I don't feel like people listen to me. I don't really feel seen. So number one, you can't feel listened to if you're not listening to yourself. And number two, she's trying to sort some things out, and then she'll talk to this person and then feel overwhelmed, or she'll feel like she has a handle on it and then share it with somebody and then they say something else, and then she kind of gets lost. We can all identify with that. So I could keep saying to her, don't talk to everyone. But until she sees the belief, the core subconscious belief is, because when she was little, she was the youngest in her family, and her parents and her siblings all told her what to do and told her they know what's best for her, do this. So she believed it. Other people know what's best for me. So every time she comes to a place like this example of knowing her truth, she doesn't let herself know because she doesn't believe she knows what's best. Can you imagine what far-reaching ramifications that has? So identifying that and then understanding the most important thing is for us to trust ourselves. And side note, how can you know if you can trust anyone else if you don't trust yourself? Because you can't trust yourself to know if they're trustworthy. So you find yourself in relationships where you feel betrayed or let down, or then coming back to, I have the answer. I knew the answer. Now I know how to start accessing that answer. And now that I know that, I give myself permission to start being discerning who I share what with. If somebody isn't a foodie and I tell them I'm going to this wonderful restaurant and they think, well, that's kind of a waste of money, I don't need to share that with them unless there's a point to it. We get to protect ourselves. We get to protect our values, what's important to us, our desires, our dreams. Our dreams are like a little baby that need love and care and tenderness. Not we just hand them off to, oh, will you hold this? Will you hold the baby? Oh, will you take care of it? No, we don't do that, right? And we don't have to when we learn how to listen to ourselves. Then we know what we want, and then we know what's the most aligned way for us to take inspired action on creating that. And we don't betray ourselves. And we manifest who we're being, not what we want. So if I'm trusting and clear and focused and my intention is clear and I offer it up, I'm aligned. I'm not looking for what I'm doing wrong and why it's not happening. So critical. I have learned to identify where I trip up, and now I know how to reroute myself. That's empowerment. That's being empowered. So to wrap this up, what's most important is to see when we're beating ourselves up and criticizing ourselves, when we're in that whole orientation of being hard on ourselves, we're looking for what we're doing wrong. We're looking for that. When we're looking to identify where we tripped up so that we have the freedom to choose not to trip up in the same place again, the energy is different. The intention is different. One is we're catching ourselves out. The other is we're looking to support ourselves, to help ourselves, to create what we want, to be on our own side. It's just like the energy of the problem and the energy of the solution are different. We need to stay solution focused. And intention will always inform the outcome. This matters, right? Because we manifest who we're being. If you got any value from this, please like, comment, let me know, and subscribe, because I am devoted to women empowering themselves through personal and financial freedom. I love you. Thank you for being here. See you next time. Namaste.